A couple weeks ago, the 2026 FIFA World Cup came to a close, and it was one of the best World Cups of my life, probably of my entire lifetime. It had the benefit of being my first real adult World Cup. I was still in school. Even I was 21 at the last World Cup, but I was still in school. And this was the first World Cup where I was working the whole time and watching games at work. And it was also the first World Cup that was hosted in my own country, and I got to go to not one, not two, not three, but four games in Vancouver, Canada. I live on the west coast of British Columbia, so it would take a day to travel to the game, but I didn't have to stay overnight or anything, and I got to go to four games. So I've already talked a lot about my experience on the channel, and I've posted on Instagram and stuff. Like I've really done um, a lot of content, I guess, about the World Cup. But I just thought I should do one kind of wrap up video, not only about the 2026 World Cup. In fact, it might be a pretty small portion of this video, all things considered, because I want to start by just going through my World Cup history and why the World Cup is so important to me. The reason why we've got the shitty laptop camera right now is because I'm rocking the phone, as you can see. There she is in all her beauty. This is my 2026 World Cup bracket. You can see here. So this is the round of 32, round of 16, quarterfinal, semifinal, final, and here's the group stage. So I would probably replicate this if the tournament does get expanded to 30 or to 64 teams. I'd probably do the same knockout stage, but then this would have to fit four more groups, so it would get a lot more squished. But this is what I did. So that is the whole tournament, every single game, in all its glory. But before we get into 2026, like I said, let's go through a journey. So allow me to bring you to my first World Cup. Now, I am incredibly lucky that I got to see, for someone my age, so I turned 25 in August. And for someone my age, you would assume my first World Cup would be 2010. I was 8 years old in 2010. That would be what you'd assume my first World Cup was. But I was actually very lucky because starting in 2004, this is the 2004 Euro I'm showing you right now, my dad was looking to get me into a sport. He grew up in Alberta playing hockey, and he was pretty skinny for his age, but ended up being 6'1". When I was born, I was tiny. Now I ended up getting there. I'm 6 foot now, 6'1" on a good day. But I was never gonna play hockey. I was just too small as a little kid. I was tiny, right? I was in like the 95th percentile as a baby or something. Like I was super small, so I was never gonna play hockey. And here on the west coast of Canada, soccer is the biggest sport. And so he wanted to get me into soccer, but he had no idea about soccer. And so his little boy is turning 3 years old this summer, in the summer of 2004, and the UEFA Euro is on, hosted by Portugal. And my dad, he didn't have any allegiances. My mom is from England, and my dad's side of the family, going back, is from England and Scotland. So he could have cheered for England. I'm sure he watched the games, but the team he fell in love with, specifically the player he fell in love with, was a teenage phenom playing for the host country Portugal named Cristiano Ronaldo, who was playing at Manchester United for the last year. And he watched the tournament. He loved watching Portugal. They were the host. They had this great teenage superstar, and they ended up falling short, getting second place in the final to Greece, one of the shocks of football history. And then my dad decided to start watching Manchester United. He followed Ronaldo to Manchester United, and we started watching Manchester United. And so by the time that I played soccer for the next couple of years, in the youth leagues and getting in, under fives, under sixes, and then finally in 2006, I am 4 years old, turning five in a month. So every World Cup, like I'm 4, then 8, 12, 16, and then I was 21 because the 2022 World Cup was in the winter. And then I was 24 for this World Cup. I'm currently 24. So I was 4 years old, and here it is, the FIFA World Cup 2006 in Germany. I made this bracket probably in like 2021 or 2022. Is one of my COVID hobbies, was doing a bunch of old brackets for World Cups and Euros that I hadn't done. That's what this whole book is filled with. But this is World Cup 2006, and this event is so important to me because as a 4-year-old, your world is tiny. I mean, you go to school, you go to the grocery store, you obviously go home, and then maybe you have some friends' houses, but you don't decide. As a 4-year-old, you do not decide when you go to your friend's house, right? Your parents do. So you only have like 3 or 4 locations in your head, and how they connect, I don't know. You drive a car and then you get there. You don't, though your world is so tiny when you're 4 years old. And so imagine my 4-year-old self finding out that there's a World Cup going on, and where's it hosted at? I don't even know. Where's Germany? I don't know. But I'm seeing these games. I'm seeing Saudi Arabia versus Ukraine. I'm seeing Brazil versus Croatia. I'm seeing Iran versus Angola. I'm seeing Netherlands versus Serbia and Montenegro. And I've never heard of any of these places before. I don't know where they are. I don't know what Europe is. And I started to learn. And my love of flags, my love of maps, my love of history, it all comes from this first World Cup. This first World Cup is what sparked my love of what I would end up really calling just geography, right? Geography in general is my passion. And I ended up getting a Bachelor of Science in geography. I graduated the day of the World Cup opening game this year. I was standing in my gown watching South Africa versus Mexico. So anyway, 20 years before that, I was in preschool, and my dad would pick me up from preschool, and we would walk to a local soccer store. And in the soccer store corner, where they had like the fake grass that you put your boots on, right? In that area, there was a tiny little TV above the boots, and we would watch World Cup games there. And at that soccer store, I got a bracket, my first bracket. It was just this black piece of paper with, the flags on it and spaces to write in the scores and then write what teams got to the knockout stage and stuff. And I fell in love with that bracket. It was my first bracket. I mean, look, obviously I like brackets. And I ended up as like a 5 or 6-year-old, because I carried that bracket around for like multiple, maybe a year. And then I left it in my pockets, and that pocket, those pants went through the wash, and it completely destroyed my bracket. And I never had many like meltdowns, tantrums as a kid. I wasn't really that kid. I was quiet and small and stuff. But that was one, like sobbing, hammering my fists into the ground. I was just at the top of the stairs, just flailing around. I couldn't believe that my bracket had gone through the wash. It was completely destroyed. But I would make my own in the future. So it was a worthy sacrifice. But 2006 World Cup, it showed me what the world was. It showed me that people look different, and they sound different, and they play soccer different, and that there are Europe and South America and Africa, and there's all these different continents, and they all have different countries and different flags and different cultures. And the World Cup 2006 is what introduced me to the world. It is what showed me what the world is. It showed me what humanity is, because that's what the World Cup is to me. It is the biggest event that humanity puts on, and it really, for better or for worse, it shows what is important to humanity at the time. It shows what ads are playing, and what the players do, and the storylines we create, right? It's all about humanity and about what we find important at the moment. So 2006 World Cup, amazing. I don't have too many specific memories because I was so young. My one clear memory, though, is I remember during the final, watching the final at the soccer store, there was an old Italian man there. And when Italy won the final penalty in the shootout, he picked me up and put me on his shoulders, and ran around the soccer store. So that is how I celebrated Italy winning the 2006 World Cup. And like, how can I not have an origin story like that and not love the World Cup to the day I die, right? Like, an old Italian man put me on his shoulders and running around. Like, I'll never forget that. So otherwise, I was only 4 years old, and a lot of the stuff, like, I mean, I would only see games my dad would show me. And did he show me every single game? I don't know. We did have a family computer back then in 2006, but it was so like old. It was one of the huge ones. It was like this thick, right? Like a huge box of a thing. And the first time I remember seeing the internet was World Cup related. It was my dad getting up games and showing highlights and looking at scores on the computer. So yeah, this World Cup really opened my eyes to a lot. Then in 2010, which was 4 years later, that was most of my friends and people my age. Let's see if that's in frame. Yeah. So this is my official bracket that I made back in 2010. You see, I drew the flags and then went on from there. And here's the one I made in circa 2021, 2022, something like that. And yeah, I felt really, really privileged to be able to say that I'd already seen a whole World Cup in 2010, because so many people in my grade 3 class, 8 years old. This was their first World Cup. Um, People got really into it though. I remember Blockbuster were selling like little foam balls that had countries on them, right? Like an Australia one, a South Africa one, a North Korea one, a Portugal one, right? And you would go to Blockbuster and you'd buy, a ball that has wrapping on it, and then you take it off, and be like, oh, I got Netherlands. And kids were going there all the time, and we were trading these balls. They're like the size of a tennis ball. We were trading them at school, and there was this one girl. She had the Australia one, and she took a bath with it, so it became waterlogged. So no one wanted that one. Everyone's like, no, no, don't buy Australia. She's scamming you. Don't buy Australia from her. And so I remember having, a handful of them, and that was really fun. I remember my dad. He came into the class because you could have parents, come into the class for a for something, and do a little lesson every now and then, right? The teacher wouldn't say no to that. So my dad came into class, and he would put up the flags of all the countries, and then we would do like arts and crafts and like make all the flags of all the countries involved in the World Cup, and that was really fun. I got to see like my dad in front of the class, and showing everybody the flags, and I did all the like the hard. I did Portugal and stuff like that. So good memories there. I remember getting taken out of school. My dad came and picked me up, and we drove to a Portuguese church that we like going to games for Portugal games, and we watched 0-0 Cote d'Ivoire versus Portugal. But it felt so cool to like leave school in the middle of class and like go watch a game. I remember watching Germany England at my house and seeing the Lampard no goal. I remember watching Spain Portugal at school, and the principal put it on, and then my dad showed up, and it was me, the principal, my dad, and then one other random kid, and that kid. And we were watching it in the library. A lot of those like the teachers would push out the old TVs, like the TV on wheels. And we watched Spain versus Portugal, and Spain won. And the kid would not stop bragging that his dad had put a bet on Spain to win the tournament, and obviously they would. And that was like the first time I ever really heard of like gambling, like somebody gambling on a game. It was like, oh, my dad bet for Spain to win the tournament. Like the first time I ever heard of sports gambling was that, because that was in 2010. He would have had to go to like a bookie and stuff to do that. My other memory is Netherlands, Spain. I mean, I watched many of these games, obviously, but like you don't remember every single game, where you were and what you saw. I do remember the final, Netherlands versus Spain. What a brutal final that was. I watched it with a friend of mine was hosting a little watch party. They were a Portuguese family, and I was cheering for Netherlands because Spain knocked out Portugal. They were cheering for Spain though because they still had Spanish friends and stuff, right? Because they're Portuguese. And there was one old Dutch guy there, and when the Dutch won, he lifted me up on. No, I'm kidding. When the Dutch lost, he was like, "Oh, I told you so." Because back when he was like my age at the time, he was like 8 or 9 years old. Netherlands lost the 1974 and the 1978 World Cup finals. So this was like a repeat from his childhood. And he was like, see, I told you they would win. And I was so sad that Netherlands lost. I went into the bathroom and cried. Even though like I'm not Dutch or anything, I did want Spain to win, and they won. So I went into the bathroom and cried. So 2010 World Cup was fantastic. It being the South Africa World Cup, I, funnily enough, my teacher in grade 3, I remember watching the opening game of the World Cup on the TV. There was one at the back of the class that like was again a big box TV. 2010, right at the back of the class, we all had to turn around and look at it, and it was South Africa versus Mexico, and my teacher was from South Africa, and he had left South Africa many years ago. Like, and when I asked him, I was like, "Aren't you excited that the World Cup is in your country?" And he said, "Actually, no. Like, I don't like my country, and that's why I'm here." And I didn't understand it back then. Like, I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't get it, and now I know. Now I'm like, oh yeah, like. As a black man in South Africa during apartheid, like I could see how you would leave your country. Now I understand it, but back then I didn't. So again, just another case of like the World Cup expanding my my view of the world. I remember not even like North Korea were at this World Cup. I had no idea what North Korea was before this tournament. I just thought it was the other Korea. No big deal. Now I know what North Korea is, right? But like the World Cup helped me kind of learn stuff like that. Ghana being would be a South Africa 2010 segment without mentioning Ghana. Incredible run, being the African team. I mean, as you can see, every single African team got eliminated in the group stage except for Ghana. Um, but a great tournament, and one that I was really happy. Like, so many people around me, it was their first World Cup, and it was really cool to like kind of have a bit of context already and like and know stuff going into the tournament. Now we got the 2014 World Cup. Now, a common saying is that your first World Cup will always be your favorite. And I do really agree with that. I always ask people, like during World Cup, I'm always asking people World Cup questions. Who's your prediction to win the tournament? Oh, what was your first World Cup? What's your favorite World Cup moment? And I asked, I've asked a lot of people, and they usually just say like, yeah, my first one, right? I've got millennial friends who are like, oh yeah, the '98 World Cup was so great, and and for me, my first World Cup was 2006, and obviously, yes, amazing. 2006 was so good, but I was very young, so it's not like I internalized all of it. 2010 was also great, and I've got a lot of good memories from it. But 2014, I was 12 years old, and it wasn't my first World Cup, but I would say it was the first World Cup I fully engaged with. Like I watched everything I could. It was the first World Cup that I got the Panini sticker book. It was the first and only World Cup I've got the Panini sticker book, and I did this bracket obviously here, kind of messy, but you can see how I've really cleaned it up over the years. But I did this bracket here, but it's not just this. I did other papers where I had like all the games individually and stuff. Like I did a lot of effort on this World Cup. This was a unique World Cup because so I was in middle school, but the teachers in British Columbia went on strike only a few days before, or a few days after this World Cup started. I watched Netherlands and Spain in the computer lab at school while we were supposed to be doing French verbs. And the only reason we were doing French verbs is just because the teachers were all gonna go on strike, and so they just had us doing like repetitive work over and over. So that's what I was doing when we were watching Spain Netherlands. And I remember the whole class like was basically watching it, and another class was doing a watch party, and our teacher was such an asshole he wouldn't let us go watch it. The day before, I'd actually gone out of school to go to my mom's class because she's a teacher, and we did the same thing as 4 years ago. My dad like showed everybody how to make all the flags of the tournament, in paper, and then we put them up on the wall, and then we watched Brazil versus Croatia. So that was really fun. And then yeah, the next day I was at school for Netherlands, Spain. Tons of good memories on this one though. I remember watching Croatia, um, or not Croatia, sorry, Costa Rica. Costa Rica's incredible run. I remember watching Costa Rica versus Uruguay at a bowling alley. I remember the heartbreak over England's games with Italy and Uruguay and stuff. I remember going to the church, the Portuguese church, and watching Germany versus Portugal, which was heartbreaking. That was a tough bus ride back. And this was there's a short period when I was in middle school where my family didn't have a car, so we took the bus out to watch Germany versus Portugal, and they got destroyed 4-0. Um, Spain getting eliminated early, and then a unique thing about this one is I changed locations halfway through the tournament. I watched these four knockout games, Brazil, Chile, all the way to Germany, Algeria. These four, I was in my hometown, and then I went down to visit my dad's side of the family in Arizona. So for the rest of the tournament, I was in Arizona. So I remember Brazil, Chile, watching that on the ferry on the way to get to the airport, and then I remember Netherlands, Mexico. I remember watching that, and then near the end of the game, I actually didn't see the final goal because my cousin, who like I hadn't seen my cousins in so long down in Arizona, and my cousin wanted to play FIFA, so I missed the end of that game because we were playing FIFA. I remember watching Belgium USA in USA, and that was really cool. And then I missed Germany Brazil because I was at a water park, and my grandpa was laying on a lawn chair, and I get out from a whatever it's called, a slip and slide, a water slide. I got out from a water slide, and my grandpa just yells, "It's 7-1," and I'm just like, okay, he's trolling, like he's joking. Like my grandpa doesn't know anything about soccer, and he has no idea that that's like an impossible scoreline. And then I realized he's not joking. And when I got home, I got my cousin to put the highlights on the TV, but I didn't want to see the thumbnail. So I like left the room, and then she put it on, and I came back and watched it. And I told her, I'm like, if it is really 7-1, I bet Brazil scored the first goal or the last goal. And it was right. It was the last goal. And then we watched the World Cup final, and I'll never forget watching the whole World Cup final, my whole dad's side of the family. And then the moment that Götze scored that goal, as the ball was delivered, my grandpa said like, "Hey Sal, blah blah blah," and I turned to look at him, and then Götze scored. So I missed the goal, but like whatever. So good memories there, and I remember working on this very bracket, on the plane to Arizona. I took the plane by myself to Arizona when I was 12, and I remember sitting at the back in like the special seat because like I'm a minor alone, and I was working on this bracket. I got all my pens out to start working on this bracket, and they're like, "Bro, we haven't even left the, we haven't even set off. Like you got to put your tray table up." So great memories, and the 2014 World Cup, like I don't know. I think you only get one World Cup at each kind of phase of your life, right? I got one World Cup in preschool, one in elementary school. This was my middle school one. And I think being 12 years old, that's a really fun age. And I had enough, I didn't even have a phone yet or anything, but I just was able to interact with this World Cup a lot, even down to like the Panini sticker books and stuff. Next, we've got World Cup 2018. And 2018 is a funny one because, so it's my high school World Cup. It's the World Cup that I was in. I was 16 years old. And turning 17. And I was not that excited in the build up to this tournament. Like I really wasn't. I didn't make my bracket, which is this one right here. I didn't make my bracket until probably like maybe 3 or 4 days before the tournament. I was like, oh shit, I gotta make my bracket. And then the opening 2 days of the World Cup were just incredible. I remember gushing to my dad about it as we were driving somewhere. I'm like, yeah, Russia 5-0 at Saudi Arabia, then 1-0 games, Egypt versus Uruguay, Morocco versus Iran, but both with a 90th minute winner. And then of course Spain, Portugal, which I just remember jumping up and down behind the couch watching that at home. I wish we had gone to the church for that one. 3-3 Portugal, Spain, absolutely incredible. And then you had Argentina and Iceland, the Iceland goalkeeper who's a part-time filmmaker. He saved Messi's penalty to tie that, and then Switzerland tied Brazil, and then Mexico beat Germany. Like I just remember the opening week of 2018 World Cup. It reminded me. I was like, yeah, I wasn't excited in the build-up for whatever reason. I guess because I'm just an angsty teen. I wasn't hype in the build-up. But now the World Cup's here, and it's incredible, and I loved it so much. The reason why, I don't really want to spoil much, but the reason why 2018, of the 6 World Cups I've seen, 2018 is my least favorite. It really comes down to what the bracket ended up looking like, and I'll show you my good copy one here. These 8 teams, one of them is going to be the final. These 8 teams, one of them is going to be the final. You can see how they filtered down like this. Let's hit the final here. And look at this first side. We've got Uruguay, Portugal, France, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Belgium, Japan. These are all really good teams. And there's a mix. There's an Asian team. There's a couple South Americans, a few South Americans. There's a North American, and then 3 Europeans. Look at this other side. We've got Spain, Russia, the host, Croatia, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, and England, Colombia. So 1 South American team and 7 European teams. And not even the best European teams. I think the best European teams were France and Belgium, who are both on the other side of the bracket. And then, as you can see, England would knock out Colombia, and Russia would knock out Spain, meaning that we had a quarterfinal of Russia, Croatia, England, and Sweden. And yeah, you might say, oh, England are a big team. In 2018, guess who England's number 7 was? I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. It was Jesse Lingard, dude. That is who England's number 7 was at this tournament, right? We went from Beckham and Owen and, even Sterling, and now it's Saka. Jesse Lingard was the number 7 this year. So England they weren't even a seed. You can see they were in Belgium's group, right? And they got second in the group. And so this little quadrant here, one of these teams is making a World Cup final, England, Sweden, Russia, and Croatia. That looks like not even a Euro knockout stage. That looks like a Euro group stage. England would be the number one seeded team in that group. Croatia would be second. Sweden would be third, and Russia would be fourth. Like that looks like a World Cup, or that looks like a Euro group stage. So I think that is the reason why this World Cup kind of dropped a little bit. Like it's a little bit. All World Cups are fantastic, but this one's a little bit below the others, just because 2018 I was in a different place. I was a teenager, angsty teen. It was actually the only World Cup that happened when I was a teenager because it was 12, 16, and then 21. Um, and then half of the World Cup was just like a Euro. There's like a Euro going on during my World Cup. What is this? And the Euro is great, but the World Cup is always better for a reason. Uh, Specific memories on this one. I mean, uh, I watched the final, France versus Croatia, with my parents, and there was a moment there where you thought Croatia were going to do it, and it just felt impossible the whole time. England's run was incredible. Watching the England games with my mum, I should say. I remember the Russia Spain penalty shootout really well. All three of these penalty shootouts, and what I would say is just like this tournament was more than any tournament. This one I watched the most just at home with my parents. I don't know why. I guess the last one I was in Arizona a lot. The next one I would I don't know, do more I think as well. But this one, most of the memories I have of this one, 4-3 France Argentina. Most of the memories I have of this one were just at home. I was just watching it with my parents at home. So and part of the fun about the World Cup is like getting out and doing and going and have it be a reason that you get together with people. And this World Cup 2026, I think I absolutely did that. I saw games with all sorts of different people, so really excited. 2022. So 2022 is kind of a weird one because it was in winter, and we are going to get another Winter World Cup. That'll be the 2034. But World Cups are just better in the summer. It's not the worst thing in the world when we do get a winter one, but then it's 8 years between Summer World Cups. 2018 feels like a million years ago, and that was the last Summer World Cup. That's why I think 2026 it felt cool even in that sense. Like it was like, oh, a Summer World Cup. It's been so long. And I think that 2022, so I was 21 because obviously I turned 21. It was after August, so I had turned 21 rather than it would have been 20 if it was in the summer. And getting to watch this at college. So I was 21 years old going to college. And I remember watching this like just during class. I would just have it on, because it's not high school. I mean, you can just have it on in class. And I would just have it muted and hidden. A few times I remember the Spain-Morocco penalty shootout. I just left the room. We were having a lesson. I just left the room. And then another teacher came out of his classroom and we watched it on my phone together in the hallway. It's moments like that. It's moments like that that I'll never forget. I remember walking into a class and I was about to take a test, and it was during the end of this group, Japan, Spain, Germany, Costa Rica, and there was a moment, like a 5-minute period, where Japan and Costa Rica were getting through, and Spain and Germany were getting knocked out because the games happened simultaneously. Like moments like that, I'll never forget. Watching Portugal Ghana during a class where I had to do a presentation. So I was watching the game, did a presentation, and came back to the game hoping no goal had been scored. Watching Wales and Iran in class, I remember. Mexico getting knocked out. I was watching in the computer lab. So many just memories like that, and then all the way to watching Morocco Portugal with my dad and just sobbing my eyes out because I thought that was Ronaldo's last chance of winning the World Cup, and he would go to another one, but I don't know. The Morocco game was the day I realized my childhood hero was never going to win a World Cup. And then England and Portugal got knocked out on the same day, and it was the only day I wore my World Cup 2022 with all the flags of the countries and their groups shirt that I got on Instagram, and I wore that for one day, and it was England and Portugal both getting knocked out of the World Cup on the same day, back to back games. And then watching the World Cup final at my house in my apartment, and during the penalty shootout. Snow started falling outside the window, and I took a picture of that because I was like, I can't imagine, like, I'm watching a World Cup final penalty shootout after one of the greatest World Cup games ever, and snow is falling outside my window. Like, this is so weird. And I remember like it was in November, and in December is the first month here where I live. December is always the first month, or sorry, October. October is always the first month where it gets cold. So I get a little bit of seasonal depression in October because it'll just be like, oh, it's summer and it's great even into September, and then October hits, and for like 2 weeks I'll kind of be a little bit down. And I remember the build up to uh, the World Cup was the first year that happened to me. 2022 was the first year I got seasonal depression. And I'm like, why am I so down? There's a World Cup in a week. Like, why am I feeling so down? And then every year since, I'm like, oh, in October, I just get a little down because it's the changing of the seasons. And that was just the first year it happened. But I just remember thinking, like, I does not feel like a World Cup is a week away, 2 weeks away, right? But it was, and it was amazing. And we got a lot of underdogs. I mean, Croatia, Morocco, some of the biggest underdog stories. I would say Croatia getting third in 2022 was more impressive than getting second in 2018, just based on who they had to play. And Morocco, the first African team to make it that far, was great, even though it was at the expense of Portugal. And the only harm in that was the semifinals weren't that good, right? 2022, Croatia, Morocco both got beat pretty handily, didn't score a goal against Argentina and France, but the final made up for it. And yeah, this was the first World Cup where I guess you could call it my first adult World Cup, because I was 2021, but I was still in school, so that's why 2026 really feels like my first adult World Cup. And 2022, one more thing about it was Canada were involved, and I never even imagined getting to watch my own country at a World Cup. Growing up, it was just not even something we thought about. Like, Canada wouldn't even make it to the final stage of North American qualifying, which would have 6 teams in a group stage, and the top 3 go to the World Cup. Canada wouldn't even make it to that stage. And suddenly, out of nowhere, in 2020 and 2021, Canada not only made it to that final stage, they won it. We won World Cup qualification in North America, in CONCACAF. We were the number 1 team. Mexico and USA were below us, and we qualified for the World Cup, and we got placed in what was not said before the tournament to be the group of death. The group of death was always said to be Spain, Germany, and Japan. In retrospect, Germany weren't that good, got knocked out of the group stage, and then Japan and Spain both got knocked out in penalties in the round of 16. Canada's group had, it was a fraud. Like, it was not real. Canada had the number 1 ranked team in the world, Belgium, in their group. They were not that good, but they were still number 1 ranked for a reason. I mean, they were probably more like 20th, for being honest, but they had been consistent throughout the last years of being like a pretty decent side, right? And they just hadn't really lost anyone big, and that's how they kept their ranking up. Or sorry, they hadn't lost anyone small, so they kept their ranking up. But they were somehow the number 1 ranked team of the world, Belgium, and then Croatia and Morocco, who both made the fucking semifinals of that tournament, right? Canada had 2 semifinalists and the number 1 ranked team in the world in their group. So a group of death. Like, in retrospect, that is the group of death. I think Canada would have done better in a group of Germany, Spain, and Japan. I think so. I mean, maybe not, because Belgium were pretty bad, but still. But getting to watch my country at a World Cup, like, changed everything. And I knew at this point, obviously, I knew that Canada were hosting the 2026 World Cup, co-hosting, but it was still just, it felt so good to see Canada qualify for a 32 team tournament that we weren't hosting, right? Because, I mean, Qatar got into a 32 team tournament by hosting, and it's just nice to know that Canada could do it before it got bumped up to 48. I think that's all I have to say about the 2022 World Cup, which brings us back to 2026. And this tournament, I mean, how many memories I have. Let me just rattle off memories before I really get into it. Watching Mexico, South Africa with my robe on at my convocation, about to walk across the stage, seeing the red cards, people coming up to me. Like, the way my graduation works, like the way my program is, I knew barely anybody at my graduation, but I knew a few, and they would come up to me. And like, one guy who I went to Europe with on my field school, he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, like, you're watching the World Cup? That's awesome!" And then right as he pulled up, Mexico scored the second goal. So that was great. Then watching then we went out for food after, like to celebrate, me and my family and friends, and then I came home and watched the end of South Korea Czechia, which is the great game. I went to a watch party to see uh, Canada Bosnia. I left work early on a Friday to watch that. And then I remember watching the next three games. These ones all on Saturday. Me and Quinn watched USA Paraguay together, which was really fun. I was working in the garden, helping my mom in the garden, watching Germany Curacao, and Curacao scored, and me and my mom both like huddle over the phone to like watch what happened. Um, and then watching a lot of the games at work. Portugal's game against DR Congo, England's game at Croatia, both of those were at work, I'm pretty sure. Um, and then we get to match day two. So then we got to match day two, and on well, hold on, let me just check. On Thursday, June 18th, 2026, myself, my dad, my mom, and Sophie, my girlfriend, went to Canada versus Qatar. And it was Canada's first game in Vancouver after a tie against Bosnia in Toronto. And what a game it was. What a game it was. And I think I'm actually going to, while I talk about this stuff, let me. All right, there we go. I live did it there. That's fine. This is the watch party for the Bosnia game. Might as well just have that in. There's me and Quinn hanging out after the Bosnia game, and right after we smoked this joint, and then we went in and watched Paraguay USA, which was really fun. Here is the day before the game, Canada Qatar, and I was going to be at that game, so I took this photo. Here's me and Sophie on the ferry. I'm wearing this Canada jersey. And then she has a custom Manchester United jersey that her mom got because her mom, like, long story. But her mom has this custom jersey, and she gave it to her when she found out that, like, Sophie had it. And then when she found out that me and my family are Manchester United fans, it was just like, oh, it's fate. Okay, so she's got this jersey. There is Science World in Vancouver, made up to be a World Cup ball. So cool. This is walk towards the stadium, obviously. There is BC Place. And here it is. Here's Canada Qatar. Ugh. Scarf is kind of hard to handle in the small areas. Where am I going? Where's the camera? There it is. I'm trying to get the Canada part in. There we go. And yeah, the atmosphere was amazing. Like it really felt like we were gonna get our first World Cup win. Like we thought it was gonna happen. And when that first goal was scored, like, well, first of all, backing up, the anthem. I had been practicing the anthem because there's two anthems. There's a French and a English anthem. And in the Bosnia game, I noticed that Canada sung a little bit. They like went back and forth. They went English, and then the second verse was in the French verse, and then back to English. And I was like, oh God, like I haven't learned that since I was in school. I got to learn the French part of the anthem again. So I did that in preparation for this. It was all English, but still, that's how much I wanted to like sing it. I wanted to sing it perfectly. And but yeah, during the anthem, it was all English, and during the anthem, I was sobbing. I was just absolutely sobbing. I thought it was gonna be sunny. I didn't know they were gonna put the top on, so I wore sunglasses because we were gonna be in the sun otherwise. And thank God I did, because I was crying like a little baby. And my Sophie and my mom saw that, and they thought it was cute. But it just meant so much for me, like to be there to hear 52,000 Canadians sing the anthem. And yeah, there is. Hold on, I'm blocking His Royal Highness. There's Gianni Infantino and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and there's the score at the end. So it was 6-0. Amazing. I mean, just I don't know if I will ever experience anything like that ever again. Being at my country's first World Cup win, and it was 6-0. It was tied for the biggest win of the tournament. Germany beat Curacao 7-1. And yeah, Qatar got 2 red cards. Like, Yeah, sucks to suck. You got 2 red cards. You get beat 6-0. Like, goal differential matters, and yeah, like we were gonna put as many past them as we could, and yeah, I don't know if I'll ever. That will be like on my deathbed. That will be a top 10 moment of my life. Absolutely, like being at Canada Qatar, like that will be a top 10 moment of my life, and no question. Then, quickly just looking at the other match day twos. If anything stands out, I mean the thing was, so Sophie left for 6 weeks, only like 2 days after this game. So this was kind of like the last hurrah before she was leaving, and so a lot of the next games I just got to watch because I wasn't hanging out with her as much, and I remember watching them, at work or at the gym and stuff like that. But just kind of whenever the game was on, I was watching. And then in match day 3, Canada played. So going the wrong way. Canada played Switzerland, and there's my boy Maple. Oh no, the ball's gonna fall. My boy Maple the Moose, the best of the 3 mascots. There we go. There's Zayu the Leopard and Clutch the Eagle, and Maple just clears, let's be honest. And then here's Canada Switzerland. So I went to this game by myself because I just couldn't really find anyone to go with, and one ticket was, it was expensive, but I was like, no, like Canada are playing a second game in Vancouver. Am I really just not gonna go? Like, of course I'm gonna go. I expected Switzerland to win. I did not expect Switzerland to do as good at this tournament as they did. There was a chance though. All we needed was a draw to win the group. That's all we needed, and I think honestly, like maybe 4 out of 10 times, I think we would have got it done. I think we would. It didn't end up happening, but like I think we could have done it. And it was a great game. If you are Canadian, you'll recognize this place. This is the TSN, where TSN like would film their halftime stuff. Like this is where their set was. So I just like stumbled into it. You could see Brazil, Scotland being played there, and then Haiti, Morocco being played there. So this was on a no, this was on the same day. Yeah, this was on the same day. Okay, spoilers. But Canada Switzerland, I mean, it was a great game, and Switzerland, yeah, I got to spoilers. I got to see them one more time, and they had a great tournament, and I'm glad I got to see some of it. Manzambi and Mbolo and Vargas and those guys like were incredible. Also, getting to see the Promise David goal was great. Like that was a great goal, and I made friends with the people in my row. There's a couple from my town who were there, and then some guys from Ontario who didn't get to go to the Toronto game, or the Qatar game, so they were for this one. And one of them was like, I can't believe I'm gonna see only Switzerland goals. And I'm like, no, you gotta believe. Like here they come. And then David scores with his first touch. The next game was Belgium, New Zealand. And this game was not one I expected to be going to. But then I just kept going to one more. Hold on. I'm in shambles here. There we go. New Zealand, Belgium. So this was 2 days after Canada, Switzerland. And this one I went to with my cousin. And she is not someone who ever goes to sporting events or anything. Like, it's just not her thing. But she lives in Vancouver, and because it was a night game, because it was a night game, I had to sleep over. So I was like, hey, like, I'll buy your ticket for you. Like, let's go. And the tickets were much cheaper, but like only like 2/3 the cost of the Canada games, even less, because it wasn't Canada playing. And so yeah, like going to Belgium, New Zealand was really fun. So here's me and my cousin. We made this sign, so it's New Zealand versus Belgium. Oh, let me make me smaller. Hold on, so you can see me. Yeah, it's me and my cousin. And it's New Zealand and then Belgium, and it says just says World Cup with 2 little maple leaves in the corner. There's your boy. And we made the sign because she's an artist, so she just had all this stuff. I was like, hey, do you want to make a sign? She's like, yeah. Then she whips out a big poster board. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And we would make this sign, paint it up. It's hanging in her house to this day. And when we walked through security, we had drugs and alcohol on us. We brought in vodka and weed. the vodka to sip during, just the weed to smoke after. And we went through metal detectors and everything, and no one even looked at us. We were just holding the sign out, and people were just like, "Oh, nice, nice, nice," and they just waved us through. Like, it was literally the life hack. Um, the game itself was great. It was a night game, so the field was really lit up. All the stands were really dark, which felt cool. Um, this is a video. All the Belgium fans next to us, and so here's the night game, so you can see like this is the game that felt the most like a movie. Yes, I was tipsy from sipping on vodka the whole time, but you could see like the lights of the field and the darkness around, and then this kind of bar up here. This would have the Belgium and New Zealand flags rotating. Like, you would say Belgium BEL versus New Zealand NZL, and it was like rotating around the field. And that was one of those like, oh, I'm in the future type moments, you know. And Belgium would end up winning 5-0. There's your boys celebrating. And then they all came over to the Belgian fans, which were right next to us. And they scored. Lukaku and De Bruyne both scored, and then like were celebrating up towards us when they scored in the second half. Doku was amazing. Like, this was probably the best team. And then here's a bunch of Belgian fans, and then my cousin. I told her to like sneak in. I was like, get in there, get in there. So that's it. And then here's the end of the group stage. So there's a picture of the bracket you guys are seeing. But this game, like, I knew it had the potential to be like the best, because it's like, it's a night game. I'm sleeping over. It's me and my cousin. We're getting tipsy. We're smoking after, right? Like, it's really fun. And it was the most, like, I remember the wave at this game. I missed the wave during the hydration break of Canada Qatar. It was a perfect experience otherwise. I just missed the hydration break. Or sorry, I went for the hydration break to go pee, and then I missed the wave, and I could hear it happening. And I was like, no. And then during the Switzerland game, we didn't do the wave, so I got to do my first wave at the I've been in a wave before, but you know what I mean, of the World Cup. I got to do my first wave at Belgium, New Zealand, and it looked like a movie. Like, it really did. It looked like CGI. It's really weird. Like, I have a video of it, I think, but it's like just like everyone doing their arms and stuff like at nighttime, and just like the lighting looks so weird. Like, it felt like I was in a movie. And Qatar and Canada is my favorite game, like, hands down. Qatar Canada was my favorite World Cup game. New Zealand Belgium though was really, really fun. Like, it was a perfect World Cup experience. It really was. All the way to being right next to the winning fans, the fans that are winning 5-1. Like, imagine if we're sitting next to the New Zealand fans. It would have been kind of, we'd still be cheering the Belgium goals, but like. And then New Zealand got a goal, which was fun. So that was amazing. And then, last but not least, I wanted to go to one more game. And if Portugal had won their group, they would be lined up to play in Vancouver in the round of 16 against the winner of Canada's group, which ended up being Switzerland. Colombia ended up winning Portugal's group. And so it was Colombia, Switzerland I ended up going to. Because it's a knockout game, they can't pre-print the scarves. So it's just this like blanket type scarf. Like, the material is way different, and it's way cheaper, obviously. Not the price. The price is the same, but it's cheaper made. And yeah, I was sad about that. Like, these scarves are so nice. You've seen them. They're so nice. The material is great, and they're going to last forever. And I was disappointed when I saw this, but then I was like, well, the reason why it is the way it is because it's a knockout game, right? Like, I wanted to go to a knockout game, but here I am. And yeah, they didn't have time to print these, like, of course. So I went to Switzerland, Colombia on July 7th. And I went with a coworker of mine who had not gone to any of the games. A lot of my coworkers went to a game or two. In fact, this coworker of mine, his son also works for our company, and his son went to 2 games. And I was like, bro, you got to go to a game. And he just couldn't afford it. And he's like, and I asked him, I'm like, what's the most you pay for a ticket? And he was like, 1,000. When most tickets are like 1,300-1,400. And I said, okay, I'll pay the extra 300 for you. Like, you pay me back 1,000, and I'll eat the other 300. And then he was like, okay, great. So here's us at the game, supporting Colombia. He had these Colombia jerseys that we would wear during a sevens league that he goes to, and it's like all Mexicans, but they wear a Colombia jersey for some reason. It was like foreshadowing. And here's the game. It was all Colombia. You can see the Switzerland fans up here in the corner. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. You missed those last 2 pictures, didn't you? Let me go back. Here is here's the ball. Colombia fans. Here's me and my coworker with the away jerseys, and then here's Switzerland, Colombia. So you can see the Switzerland fans up here. And this game was the only. If you're looking here, it was the only 0-0. Oh, the other game. So I went to this game. I went to this game, and then I went to this game. Those are the three games I went to, and then Switzerland, Colombia, right there. If you can see that. And this was the only, if you look at all these games, it was the only knockout game that was 0-0. However, only 4 games in the entire tournament, the same as 2022 actually, went to penalty shootouts. Only 4. And as you can see right here, boom, penalty shootout. So when I was going to a knockout game, I said, okay, I want Colombia to win, but I want it to go to penalties. I want it to go to penalties, and of course, Colombia did not win on penalties, but you can't have it all. I wanted it to go to penalties because I wanted to see a World Cup penalty shootout in person, and there were only 4 this entire World Cup. In 2022, there were also 4, like having double the amount of knockout games. That meant that this World Cup had half as many penalty shootouts as the last World Cup. And the other 3, it was Australia, Egypt, it was Netherlands, Morocco, it was Germany, Paraguay, all of which I watched live, and then Switzerland, Colombia, which I was there in person for. So there's only 4, and the latest stage penalty shootout, the biggest stakes penalty shootout, I was there for. So I think that's amazing. Jumping ahead, here's the final. This is the watch party at the final, and here's after the final whistle, Spanish flag. This is a cool shot, Spanish flag, and then Messi there. So that is the end of the pictures. But I just thought I'd show you those. So yeah, I got to go to 4 games, and got to see my country's first World Cup win. I got to see my country play again and play very well against an eventual quarterfinalist. I got to see another quarterfinalist, Belgium, in a great game against New Zealand. And then I got to see Colombia, Switzerland penalty shootout. And I saw 6 countries from 5 confederations. North America from Canada, South America from Colombia, Europe from Belgium and Switzerland, 2 quarterfinalist European teams, and then Qatar from Asia, and New Zealand, who is the only representative from Oceania. So the only continent I did not see at this World Cup was Africa, which I think is pretty cool to go to 4 games and almost see every continent. Like, that's pretty cool. I went to 4 of the 7 games in Vancouver, and all of the other 3 had African teams. It was Egypt versus, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. Almost. It was Turkey versus Australia, so that's no African team. Turkey versus Australia, Egypt versus New Zealand. So I didn't see Egypt, and then Algeria versus Switzerland. So I saw Switzerland and I saw New Zealand. So didn't miss too much, but altogether I saw. What would it be? I saw 6 goals in my first game. I saw 6 goals in my third game, and I saw 3 goals in my second. So that'd be 15 goals. And then I saw a penalty shootout in my last one. So I was averaging 5 goals a game through 3 games, and then it dropped down to 4 goals a game after the knockout game. But to see an average of 4 goals a game and to get to see a penalty shootout, I mean, I'm just so happy with my experience. Yeah, I'll never forget any of those games. I'm so glad I got to go to a game by myself. I got to go to a game with my family and my partner. I got to go with a cousin who just made the experience, like seeing it through her eyes, someone who had never been to a sporting event like that before, and then going with my coworker. Like, it was all great, and I'm really happy I got to experience the World Cup in person with so many different people, as I did the World Cup virtually too, right? Like watching England games with my mom, going to the Portugal church to watch Portugal versus Croatia, which was Portugal Croatia was ridiculous. The Canada games, I was there in person for 2, and then I watched the Bosnia game and the Morocco game at the watch party, and then I saw Canada, South Africa. I'd gone golfing that weekend, and so I saw that while driving down Main Street in my city. I was driving down Main Street with the windows down, blaring the Eustachio goal celebration, like driving back. And I think, Mexico, Ecuador. I watched with my Mexican coworkers. That was so great to see them celebrating that. And then I watched England Mexico with my mom, so I got to see the best of both worlds. I got to see England Norway with my mom as well, which was great. And then I watched the semifinals at work, and then the 6-4. That one, it was the third place game, and I was like, oh, this game doesn't even matter, like third place, whatever. I mean, it's one more World Cup game against, it's England versus France, but it was on a Saturday, so I just got really high beforehand, and like I didn't watch very many games high this World Cup, but that one I was like, let me get really high before this game and like make lunch and then watch this game, and then it was a 6-4, and I'm watching it just like, what the fuck am I watching right now? Like, this is ridiculous. Am I just really high? Like, what is happening? So that was a really, really fun game to watch. And then England won, of course. And then the final the next day. So I guess to wrap it up, the 2026 World Cup, yeah, it is so special to me because it's my first working World Cup. It's my first adult World Cup in a way. It's the first World Cup I've been to that Canada's been hosting. Although I should mention, there's a little catch on that. I have actually been to 2 FIFA events before this World Cup. The first one here is the 2007 U20 FIFA World Cup Canada, and I went to, as a 5-year-old, almost 6, I went to a double header in Group F here, and it was Japan versus Scotland and Nigeria versus Costa Rica, I believe. And I went to this double header, and this was hosted in my home city. Because it's a U20 World Cup, so it's like a little smaller, like Vancouver. BC Place wasn't a host, and it was the stadium in my hometown. So I went to that when I was 7, and then when I was 13, in the summer of 2015, I went to the Women's World Cup, which was hosted in Canada, and I went to Canada versus England in BC Place, quarterfinal. Canada lost 2-1. And England scored 2 really scrappy goals in like the 14th and 16th minute or something. And then right before halftime, Christine Sinclair on the opposite side of the field for me scored, and it felt like an earthquake had hit. Like, seriously. So I got to see one of probably Christine Sinclair's biggest World Cup goals, like latest stage World Cup goals, because Canada have never made a final, and I don't even think might have made one semifinal before. So her scoring a quarterfinal, it's one of her biggest goals stage-wise. And Christine Sinclair, if you don't know, the all-time international goal scorer, men or women, just fully, a Canadian, is the all-time international goal scorer in soccer, in football. And those are my 2 FIFA experiences before this. But it was not the same. It was not the same going to the U20 World Cup, going to a Women's World Cup game with that was with my parents and my sister. It was not the same as going to 4 games, all in BC Place, seeing 2 Canada games, seeing Canada's first men's World Cup win, 6-0. I saw lots before, 2-1. So I did go to those. And I should mention those. But 2026 just takes the cake for my most meaningful World Cup. And is it my favorite? I don't know. My favorites, I do notice that my 2 favorite World Cups are both time zone friendly ones. It's the one that was hosted in my home country, 2026, and then the one hosted in Brazil, 2014. Those are my 2 favorite World Cups. So maybe it is just a time zone thing. Maybe it is like when I can see more games, I like the tournament more. My 3rd favorite World Cup is probably it's probably 2006 and 2022 next. And it's like, ooh, recency bias. Do I say 2022? I'd probably go 2026 at number 1, 2014 at number 2, 2006 at number 3, 2022 at number 4, 2010 at number 5, and then 2018 at number 6. But I mean, 2018 is still like a 9 out of 10 tournament, 8 out of 10 tournament. It's still fantastic, and everything at this World Cup, from the jersey. I love this jersey so much. The best Canadian jersey there's ever been, and it's forever going to be the World Cup 2026 home jersey, even though we only wore it once, whatever. It'll be the jersey I wear on Canada Days and future World Cups. I'll be wearing this jersey. I'll see it everywhere. when I'm old, I'll be like, oh, that guy's wearing a 2026 World Cup jersey, because this will be a classic jersey. Um, the music, the Shakira song "Die Die," I love that song. I think it's better than Waka Waka. It's an amazing World Cup song. The ball, the Trionda, like everything about this World Cup just clicked for me. I just really loved it. And yeah, there's dark sides of it. There's the specific types of ads they were playing. There was the hydration breaks. Like, I get it. There are politics, and I understand that there's a darker side of this World Cup. There's a darker side of humanity, and the World Cup is just something the whole world can watch for a little bit. Argentina versus Curacao, 2.7 billion people watched that game. And it didn't start with 2.7 billion people watching. It ended with 2.7 billion people watching because Curacao kept equalizing, and the news that Curacao was putting up a fight against the reigning world champs spread over the whole world like a virus until everyone was watching TV. That's what the World Cup does. And I think that's everything I have to say. I love the World Cup immensely. Every 4 years, I get obsessed with it, and a lot of people forget how great it is over a 4 year period, and they are reminded. Not me. I always remember how great it is, and I think in 2030, I might be married by 2030. Like, I'm thinking about where my life will be in 4 more years, and I'm like, yeah, I might be a husband in 2030, and then 4 years after that, I might have a kid. I doubt they would be old enough to remember, but because I was alive for the 2002 World Cup, I was 9 months old in the 2002 World Cup. So maybe my first kids will be too young to remember 2034 in Saudi Arabia, but like in 12 years from now, 2038, it's possible. Like, that might be my kid's first World Cup. Maybe the next one. I don't know. Who knows how life goes? But I'm looking in the future, and I'm like, yeah, like I've got a lot of World Cups to go. I'm only 6 in. I hope I'll have seen 16, 20 by the time it's all said and done. But if there's one thing that, when I am old and gray, if there's one thing that's going to keep me going, that's going to keep me wanting to live just 1 or 2 more years, it'll be seeing one more World Cup, right? Like, I just don't think I'm ever going to go tired of it, and it is my favorite thing, like favorite event that happens is the World Cup consistently, and to get to go to so many games, to get to see my country's first World Cup win, to be sobbing at the anthem, like I got to have that World Cup moment. And who knows, I might not go to another World Cup game until my kids are in their teens or 20s, right? Like, it might be another 30 years until I go to another World Cup game. Maybe USA will host one in the future. Maybe Canada will host a World Cup, right? Like, it might happen, but it might be a very long time until I go to another men's World Cup game. I'm just so happy I squeezed every little bit out of this World Cup that I could have. I'm just so grateful that I got these chances. And one thing I should say, how much money did I spend on all this? Surprisingly, I don't know, 4 games, the travel, the scarves, the tickets, the food, buying the fucking Squishmallow, the ball, the jersey. I've got posters up in the other room, right? All of it, all the money that I spent on this tournament. For 4 games and everything, it was about, in Canadian, it was about $5,500 altogether for myself. And I bought my cousin's ticket. I bought Sophie's ticket. I bought part of my coworker's ticket. Like, it wasn't just me. And so it was more than just 4 tickets. And all of that combined with travel and everything, yeah, it was about $5,500, which is, yeah, $1,100 a game. And plus more, like jersey and everything else. And I don't know, for me, it's like 5 weeks of work. 5 weeks of work for 4 World Cup games and all of this, like, oh yeah, duh. I've already paid that off. I've never been in a more financially stable position than I am right now. I've never had, like, I don't have responsibilities like kids or anything right now. My girlfriend's away on the other side of the country. Like, this really was a perfect storm and a perfect opportunity for me to get as much as I could out of this World Cup, and I'm so happy I went to 4 games and not 3 or 2 or even 1. I mean, when the World Cup started, I was only going to one game. I was going to Canada, Qatar, and then as the World Cup went on, I'm like, man, like, come on, like, I gotta go to more. Like, what am I doing here? When the World Cup comes back to Canada again, next time the World Cup is in BC Place, I'm gonna be like 60 something, and like my grandkids will be taking me. Like, go right now, go take this opportunity, because that's what I make money for, right? Like, is for times like this. And anyone who knows me would probably tell me like, oh yeah, you got to go to 4 games, right? Like, anyone who knows me well. So yeah, no regrets here, and had the best time. So thank you so much for watching. That's my World Cup story, from 2006 to 2026. 20 years of the World Cup, 6 World Cups, and hope you maybe understand me a bit better now, and why I love the things I love, and why I got a Bachelor of Science in Geography, and it's all connected, and it all kind of comes back to the World Cup. So here's to 4 more years. Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. Can't wait. It's going to be a great tournament. Excited for the World Cup, or for the Euro in 2028 as well. I've been talking about Euros in this video, but Euros are great as well, and I love them. It's just not the World Cup, right? It's not the World Cup. It's still a great tournament. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm okay. What's up? Goodbye.